this collective, right, the Blockchain Game Alliance, was the ideal vector. It was a no-brainer to go and join this forum and have a conversation about how we can propel blockchain games into the
Web3.
mainstream. Yeah, I mean, when you put it like that, it seems like I don't stick anywhere. Well, I mean, it was that identities on the internet today live on platforms and they are not controlled by users. So the data I bring to the internet as a user, as a creator, I will not really have access to it in a way that I can transact it directly with apps. So get that. They believed in a future inside Web3 where users control this data, are able to transact directly and get more value directly without the need for intermediaries or the need for platforms. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think roughly about 13,000 decentralized applications that have at least one instance of use every 24 hours. There are 18,000 developers out there. So we are very much at the point where, a good analogy is maybe where mobile games were universal wallet address. Now I can, as of today, I can use that in nearly 100 or maybe 100 and few more wallets to send and receive crypto. And I don't have to worry about which address applications want to, and probably users want them to communicate to them directly. But when you do MetaMask Connect or Wallet Connect, you are not permissioning them a means to communicate with the user. With a swappable login and identity, you can actually, as a user, permission an encrypted email. So Sajjad@judy.me can be permissioned to a decentralized application. Now, I haven't shared my actual email, but the app can send communications to that email. I think the proverbial speculation bubble in the space has certainly popped. Some might call it a .com moment, but we must remember the people who build great products out of .com went on to redefine the internet. So this is the moment for builders. If you're a builder,
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the NFT Studio 24 podcast. The NFT 24 Studio is a global educational media platform, and we're dedicated to empowering the emerging world of decentralization, blockchain, the metaverse, NFT, and crypto. And we're reporting on the latest trends and the most authentic news from leaders all over the world. So NFT Studio 24 will soon be launching. We're so excited about this. The Metaverse for All campaign, which are going to be in Africa, Japan, Pakistan, and India. And our goal is to help educate 3 million people all over the world. We know how important education is, and we know that with this initiative, we're going to be reaching people that want to learn all about Web3. And we're also very proud to be a part of the Unstoppable Woman of Web3 campaign. We're going to have a lot of updates with that, and I'm also incredibly honored to be listed among those women. And today we have a very special guest. We have Sajjad Rehman, the head of Europe at the Unstoppable Domains and a member of the Blockchain Game Alliance. Now, Unstoppable Domains is a domain name service provider on blockchain that offers complete ownership and their name in Web3 as their digital identity. Sajjad has a multifaceted experience in different industries, including fintech. At Unstoppable Domains, he's actively promoting Web3 identity and the domain names in Europe. And Unstoppable Domains is also a member of the Blockchain Game Alliance, an organization dedicated to promoting blockchain in the traditional gaming industry. Sajjad, thank you so much for joining us. There's so much to unpack here. How are you doing today?
Very well. Thank you for having me.
So tell us, where are you joining us from?
I'm based in Cambridge in the UK.
Wonderful. I'm from Miami, and it's just really great because all these podcast interview series, we're talking to people from all over the world, and it just shows how impactful this movement of Web3 is, just because a lot of people don't understand the reach, and this is just indicative where we are.
Yeah, we're on the same vibe here, except for the weather. I'm sure the weather is better in Miami. It's a bit cold and drudgy here.
It's sunny here, but I'll send you some sunshine. But Sajjad, talk to us about the Blockchain Game Alliance and Unstoppable Domains partnership. How did that come to be?
Yeah, so it was a mix of few things. I had recently joined Unstoppable Domains from Twitch. I spent the prior 8 years of my career in gaming and live streaming. So games was an immediate vector that I zoomed in on what's happening in the blockchain game space. when it comes and how potentially unstoppable domains could get involved. At the same time, Unstoppable was launching its identity product linked to login with unstoppable domains that works across decentralized applications. And this collective, right, the Blockchain Game Alliance, was the ideal vector. It was a no-brainer to go and join this forum and have a conversation about how we can propel blockchain games into the mainstream, as well as how Unstoppable could enable that as part of this collective and drive that conversation and way forward. So yeah, that's how it happened, and we've been very fortunate to have joined as a partner and met many of our recent partners through that process as well. So many of the companies that are part of the alliance eventually ended up becoming partners for Unstoppable Domains as well. So yeah, it's great to be part of the collective for sure.
And you have quite an interesting background. I mean, you've done video streaming, games, telecoms, and even fintech across regions. So what compelled you specifically to join Web3?
Yeah, I mean, when you put it like that, it seems like I don't stick anywhere.
I think I've had the same situation. You know, I have this long list and then I say, and Web3. So you're in good company.
Yeah. I think, so yeah, I mean, when I got out of college, I did experiment a lot, spent time in fintech, telecom, started off as a system on chip engineer, building chips for, SoC manufacturers out of Pakistan, actually, chip designs. But then, if you look at my last 8 years of my career, I spent them in games and live streaming, so consumer-focused entertainment tech, and predominantly in roles spanning strategy, corporate development, and eventually business development and planning. So there's sort of a bit of a consistency there. How I found Web3 was that took roots in academia. So the story goes like this. This was 2017. I'd done a bit of investment and a bit of playing around with Bitcoin and tokens, but nothing serious, nothing meaningful. And I was finishing up my MBA at Cambridge. And when one of my friends told me that he is going to join an exchange, so everybody had a good laugh because everybody was focused on the more traditional post routes, right? Going into consulting, going into investment banking, going into big tech. I was actually heading towards big tech at that time, joining Amazon shortly thereafter. So I did find his thesis of joining that industry interesting. So I did have at that time I had to write my own MBA thesis on something. So I decided to write my thesis on initial coin offerings, disrupting venture capital, which in retrospect was not a very good or very well written document, but it was very heavily worded. But I went through the journey of really understanding how this technology democratizes and disintermediates the internet in the future. And how that can take shape in different shape, in the future across various fronts, across digital distribution, across payments, so on and so forth. So while I took the job at Amazon, because I was quite focused on it, was a really good job. I eventually ended up spending 4 years at Amazon and eventually left there as the VP of Biz Dev for EMEA. I thoroughly enjoyed that process. I never sort of let go of that process of learning about Web3 and crypto. I spent time learning about decentralized applications as through that time that evolution took place of the Ethereum ecosystem, right? So 4 years later, out of pure coincidence, I was approached by an executive recruitment company that connected me to Unstoppable Domains, and they told me about identity. And it was a very long and hard thought decision because I was pretty well settled in my career at Twitch. A lot of discussions with the family about why I'm making this very big and sharp change, and eventually I felt this was the right kind of you take risks in life. This was the right kind of risk for me. I needed to go and learn what I really wanted to do, and I thought this was something I could be really passionate about. So yeah, here I am 11 months in now, building out Europe and Unstoppable Domains and focusing on it's a business development led company, so focusing on go to market with our partners, integrating partners, adding utility to our Web3 identities, as well as helping the adoption of these identities by the crypto user base, the Web3 user base, and potentially the wider internet user base.
Well, I love that you said, I mean, at the end of the day, your passion is what led you here, because in regards to Web3, you have to be so passionate that we're all here ready to onboard people and to educate them. Obviously that's why we're having this conversation, but I applaud you for making that change. And I know all the members of the Blockchain Game Alliance shares that same sentiment. So you're in good company. And Unstoppable Domains, you guys are constantly highlighting digital ownership and identity and Web3, and that's something that keeps on coming up. What is the overall utility of this, and how would you explain to all of those people that are still learning about Web3 and the digital identity aspect of it?
Yeah, I think so. It really goes back to what basic fundamental vision Unstoppable Domains was built on. And the idea that our founders had, I think 4 or 5 years ago, was that identities on the internet today live on platforms and they are not controlled by users. So the data I bring to the internet as a user, as a creator, I will not really have access to it in a way that I can transact with it directly with apps to get value. Whether it's your social graph on a social platform, whether it's your e-commerce data, so on and so forth. So they believed in a future inside Web3 where users control this data, are able to transact directly and get more value directly without the need for intermediaries or the need for platforms controlling it. So that's really the basic principle around our Web3 domain names and them acting as a universal identity. Now, the utility, because obviously that's the future vision that I'm not going to keep telling you, what happens 10 years from now. As of today, there are hundreds, if not a few thousand wallets out there, hundreds of exchanges. There are, I think, and I will not correct me if I'm wrong, I think roughly about 13,000 decentralized applications that have at least one instance of use every 24 hours. There are 18,000 developers out there. So we are very much at the point where, a good analogy is maybe where mobile games were 2009. So the user utility is building around decentralized applications. What Unstoppable Domains and our Web3 identities allow you is to carry your identity across to these decentralized applications and transact with those applications directly against your data. That's the first thing. So you can link various records to your Web3 domain name, for example, Andrea.nft, and you can then log in as with single sign-on from Unstoppable to hundreds of decentralized applications today, thousands in the future, where you can permission your data and the data that you choose to permission to the app to get personalized benefits, experiences, so on and so forth. So that's one major shift of utility that we're offering right now. Today, it really simplifies your user experience upon onboarding to a decentralized application. Today, it allows you to permission data of your choice to the application to get more benefits. In the future, there may be more use cases. The second use case is simplifying sending and receiving crypto payments, which is a very fundamental use case, right? So I always found it very complicated to actually juggle different wallet addresses for different tokens, right? You don't normally pick up one token, and it was a pain. And now I can link all the addresses of over 304 tokens that we support right now, and we're adding more every day to one name. So Sajjad.crypto becomes my universal wallet address. Now I can, as of today, I can use that in nearly 100 or maybe 100 and few more wallets to send and receive crypto. And I don't have to worry about which address or which token anymore. So this is the kind of utility we're building. You'll see more on the identity side. So for example, more recently we introduced encrypted email. Now decentralized applications want to, and probably users want them to communicate to them directly, but when you do MetaMask Connect or Wallet Connect, you are not permissioning them a means to communicate with the user. With Unstoppable login and identity, you can actually, as a user, permission an encrypted email. So sajjad@judy.me can be permissioned to a decentralized application. Now, I haven't shared my actual email, but the app can send communications to that email, which will be forwarded to my actual email. So my privacy is intact, but I am able to communicate with the decentralized application. Now, these use cases will evolve, right? Again, solving for UX on one end and strengthening the value of identity for the user on the other.
Well, thank you so much for breaking that down and making it easy to understand, for all of us. So specifically, why should anyone invest money in a domain name, you would say?
There are probably lots of reasons, but I'll try to tell you the ones that I believe in. But I think, first of all, you are very likely as a user who does not have one of these domains to get one for free as well, right? We do often do promotions where we work with a partner or integrated partner to offer domain names for free to users so they can try them. Some of our login integrations right now have the ability for users to get a free domain if they don't have one. So that's just putting it out there that they are accessible. Now, when it comes to investing money in them, it really comes down to choice and why you want to do it. Now, you may want to do it because over time, these names are going to be increasingly valuable. So you might want to acquire some names that you think, if there are hundreds of millions of people owning these domains in the future, you might want to acquire some names that you think could be sold for more later. That's one reason you may want to do it. The second reason is that you might want a name of choice. So if you want a particular name that's really, highly wanted, right? You might want to invest in that. And that name, obviously, because of the demand around it, will be more expensive than other names. So those are the only reasons. At the same time, like I said, we are very focused on making sure that these names are as accessible to as many people in the future, because our goal is to help onboard and help onboard the next 100 million, or on the long horizon, the next billion people to Web3, and get them to own the identity. And price should not be a significant barrier in doing that.
Well, wonderful. I know you touched on this not long ago, but I would love to continue to drive this point home. So according to you, at Unstoppable, domains, Unstoppable NFT domain names can be used anywhere as your identity. So how does that simplify transactions? I mean, for me, that's literally what got me really excited about as to what you guys are doing and how you guys are simplifying the transaction aspect of it.
Yeah, it's quite simple. So let's say you purchase or you acquire in some way Andrea.crypto, you mint it to your Polygon wallet, and once you mint it, you go and set up your domain. So you look to add records to that domain through our domain management. Now, one thing to state here is that as soon as you mint the domain, UD has no control over it. Now it's fully in your custody. You can choose to do whatever you want to. There are no renewal fees. There are no minting fees as well when you mint a Web3 domain from Unstoppable Domains. Now, once it's in your wallet and you go into Unstoppable Domains interface for allowing you to manage your domain, you can go there to link different token addresses, right? So let's say, Andrea, you expect to be getting Ethereum, or you expect to be transacting in some other token, right? Like 4 or 5 tokens of your choice. You will put an address against each of those in there, and then that's it. You just save that once. Now from there onwards, there are, like I said, there are hundreds of applications which are listed on our website. Some of the leading wallets, some of the leading exchanges, some of the leading decentralized applications and DeFi, where you can actually use your name to be sent a crypto token. So I'll give you an example. Let's say Math Wallet, right? Or let's say One-Inch Exchange. You can go over there, or I can go over there and say, if I need to send Andrea 3 Ethereum, ETH, I can just type your name, Andrea.crypto, and send you those tokens without having to worry which address Andrea uses for Ethereum. Similarly, if I want to send you Matic or some other token, I can just do the same thing, send it to that name, and it will automatically resolve to which address you want that particular token. That's as simple as that. It really abstracts out the complexity of really juggling those long, complicated wallet addresses, which is a hassle, right? Which is a UX problem in crypto, right? Because you get them wrong, you can forget them. I mean, yeah. So
thank you so much. I mean, that's why I wanted to reiterate that, because us being so early in the space, our goal is to onboard people. So simplifying this whole tedious process is really key. So on that same topic, there's so many young students and learners that are unaware of this technology. How is Unstoppable Domains specifically giving them the opportunities to learn about careers and Web3 and beyond?
That's a very good question. And I think it's a question that we are increasingly focused on and we have to address, because how do you solve onboarding, and how do you solve for bringing, driving mass adoption? Education is certainly one key pillar for it. So we are very focused on enabling education around Web3, and that leading into importance of identity and how to onboard identity into Web3. We have worked off late. This is what I can tell you for sure. We have done a lot of integration with partners, where through them we've started educating their users, and a lot of those partners are working on onboarding users to Web3 as well. So helping drive education through those partner channels when we integrate with them in various shapes and forms. The one recent example I can give you is we partnered with this learning metaverse called Learnerverse.
Learnerverse.
Yes, yeah, I think you Learnerverse, right?
Excuse me?
Did you say Learnerverse?
I heard Learnerverse.
Yes, yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I thought it was just a very good play on words.
So they have, I think, nearly 1,000 courses on their Web3 education platform. It's a MOOC platform on Web3. And we developed a course with them around identity, and we distributed free domains to people who completed that course. They also integrated login and stoppable domains. So when people logged in on stoppable domains, completed the course, they would get an NFT that would become a badge signifying that they've completed this particular piece of education in Web3 on that platform. And that was fantastic, because we saw that over 75,000 people took that course within a 2-week time frame, which was a great starting point. So I think you'll be seeing a lot of that happening in the future. We were rinsing and repeating and adding more layers of education to onboard the students who are not into Web3 right now, but are very curious or have intent to get in and want to learn. So you'll be seeing a lot more deployment of this education through partner programs that we do. I think we'll also be doing more first-party education. So on our website, you will probably see more content and more interactive ways of learning about Web3, as well as user control identity through Web3 domain names. We also obviously offer our documentation on how to integrate and stop publicly. It's available on our website, and we've been conducting a lot of hackathons over the last 6 to 8 months. And again, especially focused on students who are going to build in the space, to give them a chance to work with domains and learn about domains and potentially build decentralized applications around them that they can take to market. So a lot of stuff happening there. I think still very much early days, very early days, I'd say, but we'll get there.
Well, we echo the notion of how you guys are onboarding people in this space, because here at NFT Studio 24, our goal is to onboard and educate over 3 billion people. So you working and making this happen is truly our goal as well. So one thing, obviously, I'm sure this is the question that you get often, if a student is interested in working with domain name services, and how can Unstoppable Domains facilitate that process?
Yeah, I think the best way that Unstoppable, the best way, actually, I'll just pause and sort of go back here. We haven't figured it all out, right? We are still very much.
I think that's important to say. We have not figured this all out. That's why we're having these types of conversations. We are learning from our mistakes and really just asking the simple questions that we have to continue to ask, because we are very early and we're all in this together. So I think and we have to figure it out, but I'll provide you my thinking on how you can do it successfully, and how anybody who wants to achieve it can do it successfully. Broadly speaking, there are probably 2 cohorts out there of students who are Web3 curious, crypto curious, and they're going out there looking for it. So those people will find their way to applications, those people find their way to Web3 platforms, which could be in different kinds of, which could work across different kinds of use cases. It could be games, it could be educational platforms, it could be DeFi. So the best way to educate them is educate them where they're going, right? And help them on board through education, through those partners, through those applications, and get them on board to Web3, providing them a simple experience. That's obviously Unstoppable's perspective, but that's a really good way. The harder one to solve, that's probably easier. The harder one to solve is probably a significant portion of especially, I'd say,
Asian and African students, right? Because I actually did a talk, I think a fireside chat 2 days ago at the National Incubation Center in Pakistan, where we talked about exactly about Web3 or Pakistan, so I can speak a bit about that. But how do you get to that audience that is not aware of crypto and Web3, who are not going out there looking for it? That's the harder one to solve. And that's where you have to probably go through the traditional channels. One of the obvious channel is partnering with educational institutions, right? And I think that's because that's where there's not a conflict of interest, there's not a conflict of, there's no sort of incentives that you can go and figure out. If you can bring value to their students, I'm sure those institutions would welcome you. That is already happening in, perhaps I'm not as aware of Africa, but I think in Pakistan it's starting to happen already. And I think you'll see more of that happening soon. So that's a really good place. I think the second thing is working through creators who influence this cohort is key as well. Helping them bring on board these users, educate them. That can be very powerful medium as well. So those are two things that I think will be important when we look at the more unapproached cohort of students, especially in Asia and Africa.
Is there a specific question that you keep on getting from, the masses that they have never really heard of Web3? This is the very first time that they heard of crypto or Web3 or opportunities. Is there a recurring question that you're getting?
I mean, anecdotally, right? I have not actually.
Other than what is this?
I think less so. So, despite what's happened in Web3 over the last 6 months, people are still venturing in to figure out what it is. But still, there's a very large cohort, especially, like I said, in developing countries, that is not as aware. And I think I'll give you an example, right? So, when I was at Twitch, everybody, so I would go into Pakistan, I would meet my family, everybody there anecdotally would know, if they didn't know, they would figure out in 5 minutes what I'm doing, right? They would know games, they would understand live streaming, or it's something like YouTube, or maybe it's live streaming. Okay, great, we got it. This new job that I'm doing is a bit harder to explain, and I think that tells me a lot. So I think there is the education piece is super important, and in somebody who, and this is what my thought process is, right? A company that efficiently invests in education as part of the onboarding process will actually make great returns in terms of growth of users, because they'll really get to that starting point, which is critical, right? And if they can make the experience sticky after that, then they're going to win big time. So I do get the question. I think there's a lot of need for education for sure.
Of course. So how do you think Web3 identity and ownership can help smaller brands out there?
It can, okay. This one will be a less tangible answer because I haven't really focused on this particular user group as much, but it goes back to one of the first principles that inspired me to come into this space. And one of the first principles was that what Web3 offers is an opportunity to disintermediate distribution, disintermediate and take the middleman out. So right now in the world, wherever you go in the world, you would see that there are centralized platforms, without naming any. And essentially many of them act as two-sided marketplaces, where on the one hand you have a consumer, on the other side you have a small business trying to sell and transact with that consumer. So you have a builder and a user, and in the middle is a platform that arguably or invariably does offer very high quality services to make the transaction happen, but they charge a very big platform tax for it, which hurts both the user and the provider. Disintermediation can happen through technology. It has happened, but through Web3 it can take a big leap towards enabling the builder and the user to appropriate value. So how can small brands and small SMEs really venture in Web3? Now, it depends, right? What you're doing. So an SME can be a small game startup, right? So let's say if I am a game developer and I've got a 3-person team, and we've come up with, Sajjad's gaming crew as a new company. What choices do I have today? So I can go and build a game and distribute it on PC. I can distribute it on console, or I can go and distribute on the mobile store. Now, in all those cases, I will have to go through a centralized authority that will own the platform for digital distribution. In Web3, distribution payments and that go-to-market is completely independent and should be in the future largely direct to consumer, and should not be I should not be charged fees for my services, and or my my returns should not be dictated by a centralized authority. So that's one of the things that Web3 can help small brands with. How identity plays a role is identity allows you to build one thing that identity does is, in the future, I believe that identity will define what you achieve, right? In a verifiable way, allow you to show what you achieve. That matters in the context of a business as well, right? For a small business, and I've achieved things or provided services to other users or other businesses effectively on Web3, all of that is part of my identity, and I can then go and transact against that in the future. So if I'm a consulting company and I provide consulting services to in a really good way to certain Web3 companies, I could potentially get attached verifiable proofs of the quality of my service, which then become very meaningful, right? Versus putting up a testimonial on a website saying, hey, this guy said I'm great. Actually, this is proof that this guy said I'm great. It's an NFT that he gave me for this, that authenticates my claim that I had provided a very good service to this client. So I think that's what identity can do in this context for small businesses. And again, a lot more, of course, they can publish their content on IPFS, they can build their websites there, they can small brands can actually go and really transact with their own users in a different way, because again, they don't have to go through those platforms. So I think all the benefits should come through in the future, as long as people focus on building the right things.
And now that Unstoppable Domains is a part of the Blockchain Game Alliance, how are you guys continuing to educate the masses about blockchain in Europe? I mean, I know that education is such a huge aspect as to what you guys are doing, but is there anything that specifically you guys are focusing on, especially now that you have this alliance with Blockchain Game Alliance?
Yes. So I had a thesis when I was joining Web3 that the next 100 million users to Web3 will be ordered through the gaming route, right? Because gamers are natural early adopters, and games themselves are the, I guess, petri dish for innovation in a lot of different sectors. So I that was my thesis, that accessible games that enable people to move from Web 2, get into a game experience, get a wallet, understand what Web3 is, and will move into a more mature user in Web3. That will be a very big route. I still believe that's going to be true. And I've also seen that a number of projects that I've interacted with are trying to achieve that outcome, and in very different ways. So I think that's going to be super important in general, not just in Europe, but in general in Web3 in the next 3 years. In fact, it will be a big contributor to the acceleration of Web3 globally if people do it right, in my opinion. And now, how can we access that through Blockchain Alliance or through blockchain gaming in general is a question of how do we partner with those companies. So Unstoppable works very much in a B2B2C manner, right? We work through our partners to offer their users services, their identity, and the ability to onboard to Web3. Wherever these companies are trying to build this experience of Web2 to Web3, we need to be partnering with them to enable people to onboard through identity, really simplify and abstract out that complicated wallet creation experience ideally, right? So wouldn't it be cool, Andrea, if you go to, let's say, Andrea, you forgot all about Web3 today, right? Imagine for one instance, you forget all about Web3, you're playing a mobile game or playing a game on PC, and you onboard, and then it asks you to create a name, let's say Andrea.nft, and you start enjoying that game experience. Through the game experience, you learn about Web3 and its benefits, and eventually you realize that Andrea.nft is now a wallet, and it has all of these properties associated with it that you can use to transact directly. That would be an amazing experience. We don't have that today, but I think that's what we need to go with. That's what we as Unstoppable Domains need to get to, and hopefully we will.
And specifically I can tell how passionate you are, and obviously that's why we're here talking about it. What are your future aspirations when it comes to blockchain and overall Web3 adoption?
Yeah, okay. So I'll go back to the analogy I shared with you in the very start. So 2008, I mean, I've been in games. I'm a gamer from the get-go. So 2008, we had the first app on the App Store, I think Angry Birds, right? As of today, on the Google Play Store, there are 2.7 million applications. I think roughly 2 million on the iOS Store. As of today, there are 10K or 12K decentralized applications on Web3 that have some instance of usage. So, my future aspiration is that this gets to that 2.7 million number, right? Or at least a meaningful part of that 2.7 million number is actually living on the blockchain in the next 5 years. That could be massive because with those 2.7 million applications, there are billions of users. So if you get to even 1.5 million or maybe 2 million or even 1 million, you're talking about a very large part of the internet living on the decentralized web.
Mm-hmm. Well, hopefully that is definitely the direction that we're going in, and you heard it here first. Maybe we're going to be able to talk about this a couple years from now, and I'm going to say you called it.
Hopefully, right? I mean, there are various risks to this as well. What's happened right now in the space has will create challenges, and but the technology is fundamentally great. I think I nothing has changed from my perspective about what the technology offers.
Of course. And at the end of the day, that's why we have these conversations, to keep the optimism and to just always drive back to the fact that we really believe in this technology. So we're winding down here at NFT Studio 24, but something that we love to do with our guests is our rapid fire questions. Are you ready for this one?
I'm going to try. I haven't done a rapid fire in a long time. Let's see where we get to.
Okay, wonderful. So what are your predictions for Bitcoin prices in 2023?
I don't care, honestly.
Yeah, we haven't had that answer yet. You don't care.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Because it's not about Bitcoin for me. Yeah.
So specifically, what do you think the metaverse will look like in 2050?
I believe it's going to be a seamless AR, so physical plus digital, and then virtual experience where I wake up in the morning and I'm going through this seamless physical to digital virtual experience where I, socialize, interact, learn, create, without really realizing I'm going through different applications. So it will be an open metaverse or open Web3, but it will have a seamless interoperability. And I'll tell you this, that's it. So it's rapid fire. It's rapid fire. I'll keep going here.
We could definitely talk about this forever. And do you think Web3 will be massively adopted within the next 5 years?
Yes.
Really, that soon, you think?
Yes, I think okay, so a deeper view, it will massively means that for me is the next 100 to 500 million users. Mm-hmm. It will have to be here. It can't be a very sharp inflection point that 10 years from now we'll have this sharp peak and everybody's on Web3. It has to be some linearity to it. So if people are building the right things now, they will have impact in 5 years. If people don't build the right things right now, it won't happen. So I think it will happen.
Wonderful. And do you think the utility of NFT will change in the next decade?
If Web3 will be massively adopted, NFTs utility of NFT will definitely change, because I'm a big believer in NFT as a technology and not NFT as the end product. So I do believe that there are some NFTs that where art has value attached to it. I believe we'll have to come with a lot of other utility which will actually have some real world transactional value attached to it. So yes.
Wonderful. And lastly, Sajjad, what type of message do you have for our viewers here at NFT Studio 24, the aspiring builders, the creators, and the ones that are looking at you right now for not only guidance, but for inspiration?
Yeah, I can try. I think the proverbial speculation bubble in the space has certainly popped. Some might call it a .com moment. but we must remember the people who built great products out of .com went on to redefine the internet. So this is the moment for builders. If you're a builder, you'll do well.
Well, wonderful. Thank you so much for this conversation. We're incredibly thankful to you because, like I said, these conversations is what our viewers definitely need to hear and been wanting to hear. So thank you so much, Sajjad, for joining us here from Unstoppable Domains. I'm Andrea Ocampo from NFT Studio 24. See you guys soon.
Thank you for having me.